Hey Crafty friend, it's me, Justine. Here today I am going to be showing you all of my tips and tricks for all of the materials and really just talking about stitching in general. This is going to be a pretty long video, so grab a snack or a drink. Stitching is one of my passions. I've been stitching on paper for a long time now. I've just been learning by trial and error and also trial and triumph. So I will be going through all of the materials you will need, and I will have everything time stamped in the description of this video. So if you want to go ahead and skip to a certain section, you certainly can. Or if you want to come back to this video and reference it later, you can. So to start it off, I thought I would just go ahead and show you these are the first stitch projects that I ever did. I went absolutely crazy. I was sent this Hello die for my first ever club subscription from Spellbinders, and I just could not stop making projects with it. So I wanted to use some footage from that. Throughout this video, I will have footage and pictures of old projects and some products that I really recommend using for stitching on paper. If at any point during the video you have a question, please pop it down in the comments. I am here to help. The whole point of making this video is to help others craft with this paper technique. So please make sure that you leave your comments in the description. I want to help you. I want you to love this hobby as much as I do. This is my jam. So we are going to go ahead and just dive right in and talk about die cuts. Before I do that, I do want to mention that I will have a lot of products linked in the description of this video. Some of them are affiliate links, which helps my channel grow, and some of them are just links to help you find products that I'm talking about. So if you do use my links, I really do appreciate it and love the support. Using the affiliate links does not cost you anything extra. It just tells Spellbinders or the other companies that I'm linking, hey, Justine told me about this, so Spellbinders does give me a little bit of a kickback. Also, if you find this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for future videos. I do have a full playlist on my channel called Stitching on Cards, and I have a whole playlist about the Stitching Club of the Month. So if you're interested, I will have those playlists linked in the description as well for you. I'm also the founder of the Spellbinders Maker group on Facebook. It is a fan page for all things Spellbinders. We post a lot of things on there about stitching, so if you're interested, go ahead and follow the link in that description for joining that club. I know there's a lot of links, but bear with me. Spellbinders has a variety of dies on their website. I think they have about over 100 at this point. So they have standalone dies, they have full background plates like you see here on the screen, but they also have different little variety packs like this bundle, a stitched alphabet bundle or a number bundle, and they also have gift sets, which can be really fun for starting out if you want to just go ahead and grab everything you might need in that gift set. I know that is limited. But my favorite thing to tell people is to subscribe for the Stitching Die of the Month membership. It is $25 a month, so it's a great way to build up your stash with a lot of variety because something new is coming every month. If you are someone who does not want to spend $25 a month or prefers not to subscribe to a membership, you certainly could start stitching for $7. So what you're going to do is grab the stitched alphabet die that corresponds with your first name. So here I have the J. It's $7, okay? So what you're going to do is go ahead and use that stitched alphabet to create different cards for yourself and make some stationery. So that is a really fun way to do it, and it is a very cost-effective way to do it. Or if you want, you can go ahead and grab a couple letters and you can make custom cards like this one for your loved ones. This Chris card I made for my beautiful aunt for her birthday last year, and she absolutely loved it. So the stitched alphabet is a really good way to go. And it's great for beginners because it just has a little bit of stitching and they really do pack a big punch. So if you're interested, you can grab the bundle. I know that's $160. So there's tons of other products up on the Spellbinders website for stitching dies, and there's also other companies that sell stitching dies. I do, quite frankly, just prefer Spellbinders dies. So I will have that linked for you in the description. Now that you have your Spellbinder die, you will need a die cutting machine. I love the Platinum from Spellbinders. There's a 6-inch and an 8.5-inch. I also really love using my little Sidekick, which is a mini die cutting machine that I keep on my desk for quick die cutting. It is probably my favorite go-to die cutting machine for small items, and it really just saves my bigger cutting plates for larger dies. So really any die cutting machine will do once you have your die. Now, floss and thread is really a fun thing, but I do have to say I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to floss and thread. I have found that the DMC brand is superior, and I'm not just telling you that because it's more expensive. I am not affiliated with DMC at all, but their floss and thread is 100% better. I'm just gonna say it. I have a ton of thread. I've been given a lot of thread from family members, neighbors, people at church. They know I do stitching, so they give me their stuff when they're decluttering, and I have a ton of different embroidery floss. And the DMC stuff is just silkier, and the color is a little bit more vibrant. The thread itself isn't fuzzy, so it does not tangle as easily. If you can see in some of the pictures, you can actually see how silky that is. And it just, frankly, is better. So I'm just going to point it out to you. If you are starting your journey with stitching, invest in some good embroidery floss. Binders has variety packs that are great ways to start your little collection if you don't have absolutely any at home, but chances are if you're a crafter you have something at home you could start with. So you can go ahead and use what you have if you want, but if you're going to go out and buy thread, I definitely recommend buying the DMC floss. So there's also variegated floss, which is really fun for making just different dimensions on your projects, and having different colors just is always really fun. There's also a pack that is really neat that's kind of Christmassy. I'll pop it on the screen here, and that's really fun for making different Christmas projects. I've made a ton of Christmas projects with stitching and have sold them at craft fairs, have given them as gifts myself. They're just really fun to use the variegated floss for. And then of course we have the metallic thread. So you might be saying, wow, that is gorgeous. And maybe you've stitched with it before and you're thinking, Justine, that's really hard to stitch with. And yeah, it is. But guess what? I have a tip later in this video that I'm going to share with you that makes stitching with metallic thread even easier. And they also have a Christmas pack, just saying. So bear with me, and the hack is a $9 fix, so it is super cool. So just know that it is not impossible to stitch with that metallic thread. The reason why it is just a little more difficult, if you will, is it is a bit bouncier. But it comes single thread already, so I'm just gonna tell you it's a good hack. I'm gonna just throw it out there. They do have a clear stamp and die set for you to go ahead and make your own little bobbins for your embroidery floss. So if that is something you want to do, I say you go for it, crafter, because it is a really beautiful way to display and store your embroidery floss. I have not gotten to that level yet, but perhaps one day I will. Currently I have 8 trays of embroidery floss, so I think that would take me a ton of time. But my really fun way to take my embroidery floss from its natural way that it comes in that little loopy packaging, I guess, to the bobbin is that bobbin winder. And it is really fun and so satisfying just to spin that up on the bobbin and go to town. But you can see that sometimes you go through a lot of thread and you need that thread ready to go for you. So when you're working on a stitch project, you're not messing around and you have exactly what you need. A lot of people find it helpful to have the colors written down on the bobbins, so when you're working on projects you can remember what you have and what colors you used. So I recommend doing that if you haven't done that with your stash yet. But my favorite way to store my materials is like this, in these trays. These two are really kind of an old shot of my embroidery floss. I now have 8 of these, so they're just regular craft organizers, but right now I have them stored by color. So I have cool tones and warm tones. These are just some other pictures of how other people store their embroidery floss and thread. So, you know, it just kind of depends on your crafting area and your personal organizational styles. So you just do what works best for you in your situation. Honestly, a baggie would work just fine too, like a plastic bag. So it just depends on what you can work with, your budget, and make happen. So let's talk about the amount of floss that you need for stitching. You can follow what I do, which is 3. So an embroidery floss comes with 6. So you can see me here on camera separating the 3 and 3. And now I have that 2 different pieces of thread. So what, if you didn't catch that, I know I was kind of quick. I am going to be doing a part 2 that shows you all the different kind of stitching and stuff, but I will go through that in depth in part 2. But you need 3 for stitching. And then here I am using that metallic thread, and that comes as a single thread, so I've always used it just as a single thread. But it really just depends on the style you have, and with some of the bulkier projects like this one on camera here, you're going to want to make sure that you don't have too thick of a thread. So I always say 3 is a good way to start, but Spellbinders does recommend 2 to 3. All right, let's talk needles. This was one of the questions. Why did I laugh like that? You guys, this is one of the questions I get asked all the time. You can see here, I'm showing you on camera the self-threading needle on the left. Don't use those for stitching. I've been experimenting with them. No, do not use them for stitching. I'm telling you, it's a pain. Watch me thread it super fast right here. Do not use them for stitching. It catches on everything. Don't do it. Just don't do it. I'm using it on that video, but I'm telling you right now, I've used it a lot. It makes such a mess. So don't do it. Regular needles are just fine. So on the Spellbinders website, they sell the tapestry needles. I would recommend starting with those if you are a beginning stitcher, because the ends are blunt, so they're not going to poke you hard and give you a poke. So go ahead and start with those. I prefer using longer needles, so I actually use just a regular sewing needle. Mine is longer. I have longer nails, so I prefer a longer needle. Is my end pokey? Yep, but I'm just gonna have to pay attention when I am stitching. So again, Spellbinders recommends the tapestry ones. I use a regular needle. Do whatever. If you have a craft room and you're a sewer, you probably have needles at home. So go ahead into your little craft room of your needles and find something that's going to work best for you and your hand. Paper, let's talk about it. Okay, a lot of times people ask, hey, what kind of paper do I need for stitching? Let me tell you a secret. It doesn't matter what paper you use for stitching. I'll say that louder, but it does not matter what paper you use for stitching. I have stitched with every kind of paper. I've used vellum. I've used pattern paper that is super thin. I've used 80, 90, 110, 120 pound cardstock. You can use any kind of paper. Here I am showing some glitter paper. You use what you can. It's just kind of a little bit of common sense here. So if you're going to use a thicker cardstock, you can pull a little tighter on those stitches. If you're using very thin vellum, don't pull like you were Hulk Hogan here. Just pull lightly and it'll be just fine, I promise. And basically just use common sense. If you're using a thin paper, be gentle. If you're using a thick paper, you can be a little more aggressive. Here I'm showing stitching right onto a card base. And this is one of the pre-made card bases from a card kit. So I think those are 80 pound cardstock. Oh, I think they are 80 pound. So again, use what you have. It does not matter. It doesn't matter as much as it does for like glimmering. When you glimmer, that thick paper that has all those little fibers is not going to work for glimmer. Same with BetterPress. If you're better pressing, you want a thick paper. But when you're stitching, you can use what you have. Don't buy something special for stitching. It's poking holes in regular paper and adding thread. Okay, let's move on. Moving on to my favorite section, the helpful materials. Are these necessary for crafting and stitching? No, but they're gonna make it a little more fun and easy for you. So let's go right into my first product that I'm gonna talk about, the needle minder. If you were a seamstress or anything, you know about these. This is exactly what it says. It's a needle minder. It minds your needle for you. If you are a little bit of a chaotic crafter, like I am, you need somewhere where that needle's gonna go and you won't lose it. Have I lost needles before? Yup. Have I stepped on needles in my craft room? You bet. Has my poor husband stepped on needles in my craft room? Also, yes. Sorry, dear. Anyway, you need a needle minder if you're like me, or at least a magnet. Something where you're gonna pop your needle when you're done with it, or pop your needle when you are changing out your thread. I had one of these that my mom gave me from her English paper piecing little card kit thingy that she does, and now Spellbinders has their own. You can see it here right on my shirt. I love my needle minder. Okay, speaking of needles, where are you going to put them? Grab a needle organizer, grab a baggie, grab something where you can pop all of your needles. This one I have is a pretty one. I got it on Amazon. I love this one. It makes me feel like a fancy lady. If you are a crafter on the go, you need a little DMC thread and yarn cutter. I have had one of these from my grandma from when I was a young girl, and she taught me how to knit on an airplane trip to Portland. And this little thing can go through TSA, I'm pretty sure. So you can also pop a thread on it or a leather strap like they did on that one, and you can take it on the airplane. I'm just saying, can you bring scissors on the airplane? Nope. Can you bring this on the airplane? Yep. You can go ahead and keep on stitching in the air. Woohoo. Also, you need a needle threader if you're like me. This one is my favorite. It's from DMC. Shocking. And it is good for yarn and for just stitching in general. That one is super cheap. I got that one probably a year ago at least, and I like to use the two little side arms for hiding little tails in my projects at the end if I am short on floss, but also using the big loop in the center for threading my needle, which I will show you how I thread my needle right here with that needle threader. You're going to put it through the eye of the needle, just like that, and then you're going to put your thread through that big hole like so, and then you're going to pull the needle through, and ta-da, you have a needle threaded. But again, if you're a stitcher, you'll probably have one of these at home. Do you need a fancy one with arms like me? If you want, cool. If not, that's fine too. We can still be crafty friends. Okay, now another really fun tool that I love, not just for stitching, but for all paper crafting, is reverse tweezers. If you've watched my channel, you know. Here I am making this cool little stitch mushroom with two reverse tweezers, and they are holding my two stitching pieces together. Reverse tweezers are like having a second hand. You need it. Just like me. I'm just saying. Reverse tweezers for president. I'm just saying. Da-da-da-da! Thread magic! This is my extra special tip that I was talking about before. This is going to help your thread from tangling in the first place. It isn't a wax. It's this kind of weird balm in this little container, and I've been using it for a while. I wanted to make sure that it was good for y'all before I just started telling you about it on camera, but it's really good. And it's so good that I gave it to my good friend Melanie for a birthday present. Oh, and then just dropped mine on the floor. But I will show you on part 2 of how I use it. Basically, you just run your thread through it. So, and magic happens. So you're going to want to pick that up if you haven't yet. Let's talk about extras that make your projects pop. Embellishments. They are just my favorite part about crafting, because you can use them on any style of paper crafting at all. Here I am using a package of mix-up, or at least part of a package, to make a shaker card with some stitched balloons. You can use embellishments like these. There's even some little sequins in there. There's beads in there. You can just kind of go to town. You can use gems. You can use pearls. So for this next part of the video, I will be just popping up different little projects that I've made with these kind of materials. So it's just so fun to add stitching elements to other styles of card making, like this shaking card. Isn't that just so fun? And of course I'm going to add some more embellishments to it, because why not? Anyway, here I'm using embellishments that are kind of like these half circles, and those are from Spellbinders. I'm using gems from Amazon on this card. They have tons of gems online. These happen to be non-self-adhesive, so I need to use a little bit of liquid glue to make them go and stay on my projects, but I absolutely love adding embellishments to stitched pieces, especially when I'm doing my round stitch, which is the stitch I'm using on that card there. And then sometimes you can just leave it blank and have your stitching be kind of the bling there, and then have your stamp be kind of the embellishment, if you will. You can use stamps, you can use die cuts, you can use big gems, little gems, you can use Wink of Stella, you can use embossing folders. You can just kind of combine all sorts of fun things together. Here on that one, I use sequins and glimmer elements. There I have a stitched ornament, which is just so fun. And if you're seeing any of these projects and you're wondering, hey, wait, don't leave, how did you make that one? If you write the timestamp of where or what card you're talking about, or if you write like, hey, the teal one that has happy birthday and the 3 white flowers, I want to know how to make that one. Just let me know in the comments and I will pop the video on there and under your comment, because all of these projects that I am showing on camera today, I have on YouTube for you to watch me make. So you can check that out if you're interested. But I just absolutely love adding stitching parts to cards. They're just my favorite. This is my passion, is card making. I just love showing different projects and inspiring you. I get so much inspiration from people who are members of my Facebook group, the Spellbinder Maker group. I just love being crafty friends with you. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you come to part 2, which I will be posting tomorrow if you're watching this on the day I release it. Stick around till tomorrow. I will be showing you all of the different kinds of stitching, ways to stitch, and also kind of walking you through start to finish how to stitch, from starting to gluing onto a project to mailing it, all, like really everything. So I hope that I have covered all of my bases. If you have any questions, once again, ask me in the comments. Otherwise, let me know if there's something in this video that you learned, write that in the comments. Or if there's something I missed, let me know in the comments too, because then people can read it and we can all learn more and get better at stitching. I absolutely love it. So I hope you do too, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Get to crafting, grab some new stuff if you haven't, or really shop your stash and have a blast. This is supposed to be for fun and for creating, so play around, get funky with your materials. Anyway, we'll see you in my next video, part 2, stitching tomorrow. Bye-bye, crafty friend. Be sure to be grateful all day and every day.